is Sportscenter.
Welcome to a very spooky edition of Sportscenter. Happy Halloween, everyone. I'm Brian Van Pelt, dressed as Walter White from Breaking Bad. Sad that I have to say that, but many of the coaches and staff in the Club and Friends Fantasy Football League have poor taste and are too busy watching Amish reality television. Apparently that's a thing now. Or they watch their favorite college teams get destroyed week in and week out. Well, Week 8 in the NFL is over. The dust has just begun to settle. The playoff picture is still very murky. So let's get everyone caught up on the scores from last week before we send it over to PTI for a very special edition. Week 8 scores, here we go. Taste Dwayne Bowe taking on Skullbuckers. This game would prove to be a low-scoring affair. Taste Dwayne Bowe needed more than 3 points out of the Arizona Cardinals offense, which will never happen, it appears, ever again. Skullbuckers had the San Fran D, holds on to win it. Pretty boring game. Both teams now at 4-4. Next, we had Dynasty taking on Reigning Mannings. A huge game out of Peyton Manning for Reigning Mannings, one of their two marquee quarterbacks on that team. But it doesn't matter because the running backs didn't generate hardly any points at all. Dynasty wins 91-80. Dynasty goes to 4-4. Reigning Mannings, one below 500, 3-5, still in it for sure. Jaquiz in my pants taking on Jimmy Graham Cracker. It was all Jaquiz from the start to the finish. He doesn't check his roster. I don't know. I hear seminary's hard. He doesn't check his roster. Two players play that don't set foot on the field, but it doesn't matter because he has Gronk, Brady, Doug Martin. They all score astronomical points. He coasts to a win. He probably could have set the scoring record in the history of the league, but he neglects his roster, so that's what you get. He wins it 128-77. He goes to 5-3. Jimmy Graham Cracker falls to 4-4, which sets up a four-way tie for fourth place and the last playoff spot, with four teams at 4-4. So, just continues the crazy metrics coming out of this league. The parity continues. There's no end in sight for any of this craziness. Another matchup: the tightest ends versus clean slate. And to hear head coach Justin Donahue tell it, the tightest ends are about to score about 1 million points. The complaints coming out of that locker room are that the other team scores so many points that we don't. It doesn't matter what we do because we're going to lose. The other team has a trillion points. Well, that wasn't the case. Tightest ends scored a very modest 78 points. That can easily be overcome. But I can see how it, I don't want to be too critical of head coach Justin Donahue because I can see how that might be daunting and seem like an awful lot of points when your receivers are Malcolm Floyd, Kenny the Lawbreaker Britt, and Larry Fitzgerald, who is a talented receiver, a great receiver, but that offense is so bad that the whole, could the Bama defense stop that offense debate is raging. It's alive and well. So I think you see clean slate start to hoard wide receiver talent, as he likes to call it, down the stretch, as he has been known to do in years past. Tightest ends looking good at 5-3, clean slate 3-5, still alive. Final matchup: Harboners taking on Louis Vuitton. It was close, but Louis Vuitton edges Harboners. Harboners just in a state of disarray, just absolutely chaos. The fans have turned on this team like you wouldn't believe. This is like an Atlanta with Mike Vick situation and Petrino. I mean, just disaster. Reports are he's fled the country. People have claimed to have seen him in Guatemala. We're not sure. We'll update you when we know more. But Louis Vuitton looking very nice, looking down on the rest of the league from his high perch atop the standings. Looking great. That's it for Week 8. Hopefully everyone's caught up. We're going to send it over to PTI for a very special edition. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. I'm Brian Van Pelt, filling in for Tony Kornheiser, who is currently 14 feet underwater in his Nantucket home.
And I'm Spencer Cowherd, filling in for Michael Wilbon as he gears up for NBA action until June. Get excited, folks.
Yeah, well, we will get to all the NBA that we can handle in a few months. But first, Week 8 concludes. The playoff picture is starting to emerge. Who is your clear contender? Who's out in front? Who's favored, in your opinion, to win it all?
But this time, I think it's easy to say that Louis Vuitton is the easy odds-on favorite for the rest of this year to make the finals. He's got a very strong team. He has every good running back in the league, seemingly. He was voted having the best draft on draft day. People didn't really believe it at the time, but he has proved it this year with his play.
Yeah, well, we've looked for a weakness. It's been hard to find one, as receivers seem pretty solid. Defense has played well. If there is a weakness, probably the tight end spot. I'd say Jason Witten has been spotty. He did have a big week this week. We'll see if Tony Romo can keep that up. Because when you have Jason Witten, you're kind of also relying on Tony Romo, who has been awful. All right, Spencer. There's 4 teams currently 4-4. There's only one more playoff spot to be had, assuming none of the others ahead of them fade back. But who do you see emerging from the pack and securing the final playoff spot and taking this team into the postseason with high hopes?
At this point, I think it has to be Dynasty. He has a long winning tradition, won the league last year and the finals the year before that. And I think they will finally have enough weeks to kind of get themselves into playing shape by playoff time and come through on top and secure that last spot. Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham provide a powerful 1-2 punch. He has some running backs that play in the NFL. And a Chicago defense that at this point has been dominant and his higher score.
Well, the Chicago defense definitely does have to be the stud MVP on that team, outscoring most receivers, I think all the tight ends, and ahead of a lot of the QBs and running backs. That team kind of turned into a haven for Colts players, kind of washed up talent. I don't know. I can't agree with you. I'd have to say that Taste Dwayne Bowe makes the playoffs in kind of a shocking come from behind story. Second best running back talent in the league. Just tough loss this week, but I think they get back on track.
Well, shocking would be how it would have to be, because I don't see this team doing anything except getting behind people. They have Cam Newton as their quarterback, someone that is near and dear to my heart, but at this point in the fantasy season has not been really very impressive. The defense, the Atlanta Falcons, another team I love, unfortunately is a mediocre at best defense. I just don't think they have the talent. And then they have the old team curse of Dwayne Bowe back on the team. I don't want to say he's a cancer, but he is a dangerous-looking mole right now for this team.
Well, I think everyone is hoping that Dwayne Bowe gets shipped, traded. The rumors are swirling. The deadline got pushed back. I think everyone at Taste Dwayne Bowe headquarters is very, very hopeful that trade gets done.
I would hang up the phone.
We have our playoff favorites, but every year someone goes down the stretch, crashes and burns hard. Everybody's heartbroken. Who do you see that happening to this year in the 4-4 pack?
At this point, I have to say it's Skullbuckers, a team that is shocking. They are 4-4, not in last place. They've made a ton of trades this year, been very active, and the word around the league is that a trade with Skullbuckers is like a night with the head cheerleader. Everyone may have done it, but it was still enjoyable. And every trade they've made has been seemingly lopsided in favor of the other team. People keep trying to make trades with them because they hope to get a steal themselves. This team is not going to be very good down the second half. I see a last place finish possible for them.
Definitely a revolving cast in Skullbuckers land. No starter, it seems, has their job safe, except for Antonio Gates. It seems that no matter what package you put together for Antonio Gates in an ailing, older tight end, it just seems like you get rejected. Will not ship him. I'm not sure what his contract, what the details on his contract are, but it doesn't seem like he's going to ship him.
Well, at this point, Skullbuckers seems to believe that our league is taking place in 2007. Antonio Gates hasn't been relevant for several years, and I just don't understand the fascination. I have heard that his girlfriend runs the team. It may have been a long time since she's seen an NFL game.
I'll let you go there. I have heard the same thing. I wasn't going to mention it.
I'm just saying it's, maybe she's been in the kitchen a little bit too much and hasn't been watching any games, doesn't know Antonio Gates is no longer a good player.
All right, Spencer, time for a little segment I like to call Over-Under. Here we go. Over-Under, 2 Mannings drafted by head coach Taylor Allison next year.
I'm going over. Taylor has drafted, he's slowly increased the number of Mannings he's drafted each year. This year he's got both Manning brothers. There are reports around the league that Taylor has been drunkenly calling Archie Manning late at night, begging for him to come back in the league just so that he can have another Manning on his team. He truly does love those old Manning brothers and fathers this time.
Yeah, I will also go over. There is a third Manning brother, right?
The very not often discussed Cooper Manning. I won't touch that, but just saying, he's out there.
He is out there. All right. Over under 4 losses for head coach Jared LaCroix the rest of this season.
I'm going under on this. The running backs he has are too strong. That's good for 30-plus points a week from them, and I just don't think that anybody is going to be able to match up with him the rest of the way. He may have a loss here or there, but I don't see him having 4.
I will also go under. Started Arian Foster in the flex position just to be a real douche. I do see him losing one more game to Taste Dwayne Bowe at some point.
I disagree.
Just bold prediction.
That's a terrible team.
All right, over, under 3 fantasy seasons before head coach Griffin Adkins engages to his longtime girlfriend, Sarah.
I'm going to go over on this. The wait has been excruciating for us looking on the outside. He was last seen in Guatemala, possibly going after his other family that there are reports that he has down there. There's also been some reports that Kevin and Taylor has been seen leaving his apartment. The two were seen canoodling late night at a bar one time. There's no question that this situation is murky at best, and I think 3 years is a very low estimate for the amount of time it's going to take.
I agree. Definitely going over on this one. The whole situation is sadly reminiscent of the Bobby Petrino meltdown that he had in Arkansas.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that situation just gets better.
Gets resolved quickly, please.
All right, next. Over, under 1 Bengals game that head coach Jimmy Roll has actually watched this season.
I'm going to go under. Coach Jimmy has 3 Bengals players on his team, a shocking number for such a terrible team. I think that he loves A.J. Green, as all good dogs do, and then he feels a real connection with redheaded quarterback Andy Dalton. I don't know who the third Bengal is because it's a Bengal. Who cares? So I don't think that he's watched any Bengals games this year, and I think he's just going after names he knows.
I agree. Unless the Saints play the Bengals, which I'm not sure they do this season, I don't see him watching a Bengals game. Third player, it's anyone's guess. All right, next. Over, under 10 Hail Marys said for having the name Jaquiz in my pants for head coach Jay Butler while in seminary.
I'm going to go over on this. I think that Jay Butler has a lot of repentance to do about this. He has a reference to an act that, quite frankly, anyone in seminary is not allowed to engage in, much less talk about. And I think that having your team name as some play on words is crass and not befitting of a man of the cloth.
I agree completely. I'm going to stay away from that one. I've been suspended myself for plays on words. They said it was harassment. It was just a joke, just a lighthearted joke.
Exposing yourself to Linda Cohn is never a joke.
That's what they said. All right, last one. Over, under 1 real life Squatch existing.
I'm going to go under on this. I don't think any Squatches exist, and head coach's infatuation with them is bordering on upsetting, uncomfortable for everyone now. I think that deep down he knows that they don't exist, but he's fed into this persona of someone that actually watches the Finding Bigfoot show, knows the calls. At this point, Justin, please stop. Move on to something else. Move on to the Loch Ness Monster. Do anything, please. Just change it up, because the Squatch does not exist, buddy.
I'll tell you what, you hear more credible complaints from Clean Slate fans that the points against are way, just astronomical. Their team scores plenty of points, but the points against are just too much to overcome. Then you do real Bigfoot sightings.
And on the points against thing, he's not even in the top 3, I don't think, in the league for highest points against. So really not much to complain about. Have a better team.
Great. That was over under. All right, folks, that's it for today. I'm Brian Van Pelt saying so long.
And I'm Spencer Cowherd, reminding folks that if your team seems bad, just trade with the Skullbuckers.
Good night, Canada.